Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swami Niti Namini Namacharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayane Gaurakata Damadaya Nagara Grama Tarine Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Yes, we went through the 12 points of what means practicing devotional service. Today we will be studying what are the characteristics to identify if we are advancing spiritually or not. As one makes progress, he should develop the following characteristics. Clearly perceiving the difference between matter and spirit, no longer identifying with the body and bodily relations, remembering Krishna always, even during deep sleep, always seeing Krishna and his own identity in relation to Krishna as clearly as one sees the sun in the sky. Wow, let's pause there. That's a beautiful point. Always seeing Krishna and his own identity in relation to Krishna as clearly as one sees the sun in the sky. I belong to Krishna, and Krishna belongs to me. This important, eternal reality that I belong to Krishna. Such a simple truth. Within that is the deepest, most philosophical identification of ourselves. I belong to Krishna. And when we have that in our background, in our subconscious, deeply imprinted, nothing else can shake our faith. When we know I belong to Krishna, everything else just takes a back seat. When this identification becomes our driving force, everything else just takes a back seat. Okay, any of you likes to start reading this part, this page?
I read. Such a liberated soul sees Krishna reflected even in the false ego. Devahuti's brow furrowed. What does it mean that Krishna is reflected even in the false ego? Kapila explained. Informed by knowledge, the self-realized soul sees
This part, this page.
Such a liberated soul sees Krishna reflected even in the false ego. Devahuti's brow furrowed. What does it mean that Krishna is reflected even in the false ego? Kapila explained.
Please continue.
Kapila explained, informed by knowledge, the self realized soul sees how everything, even false ego, rests on Krishna's body. He also sees how the Lord enters and pervades the cosmos. He sees that everything is ultimately Krishna's energy and therefore non different from him. He also sees how Krishna alone enables the souls to perceive and interact with his material energy. Devahuti felt confused. Krishna is completely spiritual. Nevertheless, matter comes from the rests on him. How? Kapila knew it was hard to understand. He wanted to illustrate this difficult point, and he had the perfect example right before him. The room in which they sat was designed to remain cool even during the hot summer. It had a wide awning which stopped direct sunshine from entering. To provide illumination, there were pools of water outside which reflected the sun's light into the room, but not its heat. He said, Mother, you see how this room is illuminated by the sun? Devahuti nodded. Reflected sunlight lit up the entire space, making the jeweled walls sparkle and shine. Kapila continued, Although the sun is high in the sky, it is hidden by the awning. Similarly, the material world is so designed to keep Krishna invisible. He paused to see if Devahuti was following his analogy. Listening intently, she encouraged him to continue. Kapila said, Sitting here, we cannot see the sun reflected in the pools of water, but from its reflection on the walls we can infer its presence. The sun reflected in the water is compared to Gabhratakshai Vishnu, Krishna's expansion in the material universe. Just as the reflected sun in the pool lights this room, Vishnu reflects his energy as false ego, which manifests the material world. This world is thus Krishna's reflected energy. And just as the sun in the sky is unaffected by the water in which it reflects, so Krishna remains aloof and untouched by matter. Devahuti nodded slowly. That makes sense now. Please continue. Kapila said. The Brahm realized yogi is convinced of his spiritual identity as Krishna's servant. He knows that it is due to false ego that the modes of nature can influence him to think himself separate from Krishna and to identify with matter. A person with such correct knowledge who sees everything as Krishna's reflection may appear to still be entangled in the bodily conception of life. However, because of his proper knowledge, he is liberated from false ego. Devahuti lifted her slender fingers and scratched her cheek. How does knowing that everything is Krishna's reflection make one liberated? As she grappled with this doubt, a thought came to her. Two people may see a beautiful rose. An ignorant person will think it is meant for his enjoyment. The person in knowledge, however, sees it as Krishna's reflection or energy. Therefore, it belongs to him and should be utilized in his service. Correct understanding gives one the right perspective on the world, which enables him to engage everything in Krishna's service, even the material, body, mind, and senses. Thus, he never becomes entangled in matter. Devahuti had another doubt that she could not resolve. Kapila had explained how false ego is his energy that covers the conditioned souls. The matter it must be destroyed at the time of universal annihilation. Would the jiva, who is never destroyed, not then realize his spiritual nature? If everything material, including even his false ego, has been stripped away, Would he not become self-realized? Why then should one practice yoga? Kapila understood her mind. At the time of universal destruction, the living entity is merged in the pradhana in a state of deep sleep, free of false identification with the body, mind, and senses, because all of these have been absorbed into the total material energy, Prakriti. Although vividly aware of this existence as a seed different from matter, the jiva still has material attachment. He feels like a person who has lost a great treasure because he no longer has a body or senses with which to enjoy, nor indeed is there anything for him to enjoy. However, the devotee who is mature in yoga practice and transcendental knowledge is detached from sense gratification and is therefore not bewildered. He sees clearly that the material body and mind have nothing to do with his true self. Only in ignorance did he previously identify with him. A sense of panic arose in Devahuti's heart. She was attached and therefore bewildered. She missed her husband and still yearned to be with him. Listening to Sankhya distracted her mind, but as soon as she remembered her loss, a great wave of grief again engulfed her. How would she get free from her attachment? Burying her face in her hand, she sobbed, "My dear Brahmin, does material nature ever release the spirit soul? I have been attracted to worldly enjoyment since time immemorial. How will it end? Just as earth can never be separated from aroma and water cannot be parted from taste, similarly consciousness cannot be separated from intelligence, by which it functions. Since consciousness is the symptom of the soul, the intelligence is material. It seems the soul can never be separated from matter. Devahuti's tone was plaintive. I have heard from you that the conditioned soul is trapped in material existence. Although I think I am the doer, in truth I am not. The material energy acts, and I, the soul, am a passenger on the bodily machine. Since I have no power to act, how can I free myself? How can philosophizing that we are different from the body get us out of material captivity? Tears ran down her cheeks. Even if by theoretically analyzing matter and spirit I temporarily experience detachment from matter, the truth is that I am not at heart truly detached. Kapila looked compassionately at his grieving mother. The sure way to get liberation is to hear for a long time about me or from me. This hearing will enable you to perform all other duties for my pleasure. You will thus receive no karmic reactions and you will be freed from the modes of nature. No one can progress in spiritual consciousness merely by speculation. By sufficient hearing from the right sources, you will develop transcendental knowledge and perceive the absolute truth. Then real renunciation will awaken in the heart, unlike the type 1 experiences due to passing material sentiment. Born of real knowledge, such renunciation is very firm and it enables one to perform austerities such as fasting and to keep the mind fixed in one's true nature as Krishna's eternal servant. As they sat deep in conversation, wisps of smoke wafted in from outside. Looking out of the window, they saw forest Brahmins performing a fire sacrifice. As the Brahmins chanted sacred mantras and placed kindling into the fire. The flames leapt high, making a crackling sound. For some moments, Kapila watched the Brahmins. Then he said, because material nature has covered the living entities, they feel as if they are in a blazing fire. However, if they seriously engage in my devotional service by hearing about me, glorifying me, worshipping me, and offering me the results of their work, their suffering will gradually disappear. Turning to his mother, who was listening intently, he added, try to understand, mother, would cause the fire, but it is also consumed by the same fire. Similarly, you may take up the process of hearing about the and glorifying Krishna because you are suffering, but by these processes of bhakti, your suffering will be destroyed. By hearing from my pure devotee, a person will recognize the futility of trying to enjoy the material nature. Giving up this foolish attempt, he will become free of Maya's control and stand his own spiritual glory. Devahudi sighed. He still had doubts. How could anyone in a material body escape its suffering? Kapila said, Mother, consider this example. You are asleep. You may suffer a nightmare. However, when you wake up, the suffering ends. Similarly, the self-realized soul is awake to his true position as Krishna's servant and remains undisturbed by material nature. Indeed, an enlightened person whose mind is fixed on me is never disturbed, even while acting in this world, because he is satisfied within himself by serving me and has no desires for the results of work. Devahuti looked at him in confusion. She couldn't understand how anyone could work without a desire for the results. Even she was hearing about the Lord because she wanted freedom from suffering. How was it possible not to have selfish desire? Kapila said, the kind of practitioner you are thinking of is called a mixed devotee. Nevertheless, by continued service for many years or possibly many lives, he will eventually become purified and lose interest in worldly gain, including elevation, even elevation to the highest material planet. Devahuti could not understand how one transformed from a mixed to a pure devotee. What if she went for her entire life without attaining self realization? How many lives would it take to succeed? There seemed to be no guarantee of success. Kapila spoke encouragingly. To succeed, one needs only two qualifications. The first, to properly practice bhakti yoga. The second is that one's aim must be to attain pure devotional service. One should at least desire to have such an aim. Whosoever has these two qualifications will certainly succeed by my special grace, which is never bestowed upon those desiring to merge with me or attain mystic powers. However, to those who serve me with faith, desiring only to love me, I give the intelligence to steadily progress in spiritual consciousness. They attain my supreme abode of unadulterated bliss. After giving up the present body, such devotees never return to this material world. Kapila paused and, after a moment's thought, added a note of caution. As you progress on this path, you will eventually develop the mystic perfections. If one is immature in spiritual understanding, it is possible to become enamored of these powers, not realizing they are merely material. Thus, one becomes diverted from the real goal of yoga. However, a mature yogi who does not become distracted but continues to strive for my pure loving service will certainly succeed. Only such persons will attain my deathless abode. The Lord stopped speaking and suggested they resume in the morning. Taking leave from his mother, he returned to the grove on the bank of Bindu Sarovara. Later,
We can also resume tomorrow morning. So this point about how to not be attached to the results of our action and how performing devotional service itself will reduce our materialistic inclinations. These are very practical points for us to remember and keep going, keep continuing, and to not feel that, oh, I'm not advanced, or oh, I'm not at that level. We just continue. We just keep working on ourselves.
Mataji, there was one doubt of Devahuti. She said, like she has to continue hearing also. Then only her heart will be cleansed. At one point, I read it was there. To attain devotional service, we have to keep on hearing.
Yeah.
Of the Lord's glory. No, it was without any doubt.
Yeah.
To attain devotional service.
Yes. Shravanam is a process of devotional service that in every other process of devotional service, it's included. So it's a primary. It's true that when we perform devotional service with chanting Hare Krishna, we get some sort of mystic perfections. And as it says here, if we are immature, we get kind of affected by them. But if we are mature, we see up like big deal. Love of Krishna is my goal, not these things. And no, because this can actually be like distractions from progressing spiritually. Any other points, any other realizations, thoughts? Okay, so we can end here and continue tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Purushottam Mas ki jai. Today is the last day of Purushottam month.
16th, yes.
So thank you for joining.
I'm traveling to Vrindavan today.
Oh, wow. Please pray for us.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
So you will be able to join tomorrow or not?